Going uphill would have been better.
Hey, Yvonne. How you doing?
Welcome to the March for Science Arrowhead and Earth Day Beach Cleanup. My name's Kathy McClure, and I'm a chiropractor, and I can't be quiet anymore.
Okay.
I can't be quiet. So that's why we're here. The March for Science celebrates science and the scientists who serve us. We are a community of people who practice science and who value biologists, nurses, engineers, foresters, physicians, computer scientists, teachers, students, and many other scientists contribute to our economy health, and well-being in the Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Today, we join 600 marches for science around the world, over 6 continents, worldwide. This international movement champions robustly funded and publicly communicated science as a pillar of human freedom and prosperity. We have come together as a diverse, nonpartisan group to call for science that upholds the common good.
I'm jumping in with a message from the National March for Science. It's been awesome that as an organizer I've connected and been on conference calls and so on. This is so energetic and so global. So I'm going to end with something with your phone. If you're a social media user or you want to do things and follow on your phone, get it ready, because I'm going to give you a text number to join the cause. My name is Jean Cochran. I am a conservation biologist. I am proud that I served my country, our country, for over 20 years as a biologist in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Park Service. I am here, above everything that we care about, I am here to shout out my support for those who are still serving, who are serving in our region, in our county, and serving in government or out of government on behalf of the people. So that's why I'm here. So, the message from National is, this march is awesome, but it's just the beginning. This is a movement in support of science, science education, service of science, and the full participation of women, Native peoples, and people of color in science. If you care about these things and you want to follow it and get action messages, now get your phone out. You're going to text the word science to this number. I'll repeat it at the end of the rally. 94253. 94253. And you'll get alerts for ways to do citizen science, to do advocacy, to get involved in education. You can also follow marchforscience.com or Facebook Live. Today, March for Science is broadcasting from all over the world, so if you like that kind of thing, I was watching this morning, it's incredible. Jay, Aerosmith Deku, and a welcome.
Hi guys.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want me to touch the microphone. That's probably all for the best. So I heard the count was somewhere over 160 people. So when we look at that, we know that that's roughly 1/30th of our county because math, and we like math, and that's a pretty darn strong showing. A couple of things I wanted to say just to welcome you all here and to thank you for coming out. When we did the comprehensive plan vision gathering information, we sent out a bunch of surveys, we sat down with a bunch of people at different restaurants, we talked to people in different ways to gather information, and one of the top things, actually there were two of the 6 value statements value points that came out of that process was, one, we've got to protect this, and that's number 1. And the second one was, this entire community has to really, really look at how we can do renewable energy. How we can do it well, how we can lower our carbon footprint, how we can be a little island of renewable energy up here without having to rely on fossil fuels or something like that. It's a long way to go, but we identified that. You guys told us that's what you wanted. To build on that, and you'll hear from these guys a little bit later, we just made a commitment to the Nordic Nature Group that we're going to be doing a climate change plan, which means climate action plan. Thank you. That's good. We're not planning on changing anything. We want it to stay similar to what it is right now. So right now, as we speak, we're doing a greenhouse gas inventory on the city to see what we're producing, so then we know what we have to address. We're going to keep working towards this. We've been exploring with the concept of dark skies for our community as well to lower light pollution, and we're trying to take as many suggestions as we can to make the standard of living a little bit better here. And with science being a big part of that. So thank you all for coming out. Continue being a part of this voice in our community. It's really important. And we'll keep listening. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mylan Schmidt. Some of you may know me. I work at the clinic here. I've been practicing medicine for over 40 years, and I would consider myself a serious student of science for well over 50. And what I love about science is that it's a way to know stuff and really know what you know. And the philosophy of science itself is a beautiful approach to life. And the results are world-changing. This is how science is designed to work. You notice something in the environment and you think about it and curiosity strikes. And you say, why did that happen? What's that about? Well, then you can think about it and you can come up with an idea that you can test, a hypothesis. Then you have to design an experiment which is going to test that hypothesis. So you have to control all of the variables and get out as much bias as possible. Discipline and hard work then follow. You have to do the experiment, you have to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. In a spirit of collegiality then, you share that information with others. And they can look at your experiment and they can maybe see some flaws, maybe they can make a better experiment, maybe their results will agree with yours or maybe they won't. Only after this has been reproduced and looked at carefully can you consider something as fact. And knowing that at any time another experiment can come along and prove it wrong. So that takes a little bit of humility. Curiosity, experimentation, discipline, objectivity, collegiality, skepticism, and humility. These are values we need to teach and emphasize in today's society. These values alone are sufficient to embrace science as a philosophy. But what of science's practical value? In medicine alone, over the last 10 years, we've seen the completion of the human genome, effective treatments for HIV and hepatitis C, a vaccine to prevent some forms of cancer, and for better or for worse, maybe and for worse, widespread use of the electronic medical record. When I began practice 40 years ago, the effectiveness of cardiac bypass surgery and angioplasty was still being hotly debated. There was no effective medical treatment for ulcers. Treatment would have been surgery. Tobacco companies were still arguing that smoking did not cause cancer. There was no CT scan, no MRI, and a lot of exploratory surgery. High blood pressure, diabetes, and depression were difficult to treat. Medications had a lot of side effects, and there was not a lot of evidence that any of it even worked. No one knew for sure if they made a difference. We didn't even know the structure of DNA until 1953, and 100 years ago, there was no treatment with penicillin or insulin. What we don't know can not only hurt us, but can destroy the world as we know it. We have real and ongoing problems which need scientific solutions. We need to fund science and math education for our children, support scientific research in medicine and the environment. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard of truth. Now is not the time to try and save money by mortgaging our future, or fail to be all that we can be by sloppy thinking. Assertion of the truth is not the same as pursuing it. We need to look at the next 10, 50, or 100 years. We can solve a lot of problems if we apply curiosity, experimentation, discipline, collegiality, skepticism, and humility. In short, science. We need to move forward, valuing education, science, and information. I urge each of you to do your part. Develop a scientific approach to the decisions that you need to make. Educate yourself on science issues. Let's make America scientific again.
Hi, friends. Hi, friends. Yeah. My name is Amanda Weberg. I have the privilege of being the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for the county. My science story is going to get a little personal. It's also a love story. So I grew up in southern Wisconsin. It's a great place to leave. So I ended up going to school in UW Superior for biology and chemistry. And there was this guy in a lot of my classes. Some of you might know this guy. He's not here right now. He's working up in a lake because he still has funding for his job. But while we were going to school and studying, he learned that I had never been camping or on the North Shore. So he took me on a camping trip up here. And after that camping trip, I fell in love with the North Shore and with him. And then life continues. We got our jobs in water quality and fisheries management. And then the perfect job opportunity came up here. So we landed and rooted down in Grand Marais. And that's where our love story and our science story continues. So to me, my commitment to science is the same as my commitment to my partner. So it's not just, I have to figure this out. So when you love something, you don't just love the exciting, the fun, Instagram-worthy parts. You love the boring, the slightly annoying, the everyday tasks. People that truly love science, they spend their lives entering numbers into spreadsheets and writing reports, pipetting small amounts of liquid. So if you want to help with the love of science and help me with my aquatic invasive species work, you can support Sea Grant, the DNR, and the U of M Invasive Species Research Center, and then clean, drain, and dry your equipment when you go out recreating so we can keep our water as pristine as it is.
Right.
So spread the word, not the species.
We have a very special appearance from some Northwoods critters for you now.
Hello, my name is Ole Wright. I'm 11 years old and I'm the leader of the Nordic Nature Group. Up here with me are Grace and Naomi, and they're both naturalists of the group. The reason that I care about science, and I'm so thankful for it, is because we benefit from it constantly. Many people may not realize how much our lives depend on science. Without them, our lives would not be as interesting, easy, or comfortable. For example, who used a phone today? Then we have to thank Alexander Graham Bell, who lived from March 3rd, 1847 to August 2nd, 1922. He was a Scottish-born scientist, inventor, engineer, and innovator who is credited with patenting the first practical telephone. Hip hip hooray for scientists! Did you ever play with a slinky? Mechanical engineer Richard James invented the slinky by accident in 1943. He was working to devise springs that could keep sensitive ship equipment steady at sea. After accidentally knocking some samples off a shelf, he watched in amazement as they gracefully walked down instead of falling. Scientists! Who has used electricity from a solar panel? Alexandra Edmund Becquerel discovered the photovoltaic effect, which explains how electricity can be generated from sunlight. Hip hip hooray for scientists! Has anyone ever gone to the doctor's office? René Laennec lived from 1781 to 1826 and was a French physician. He invented the stethoscope in 1816 and pioneered its use in diagnosing various chest conditions. Scientists! Has anyone ever heard of the book Silent Spring?
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps the finest nature writer of the 20th century, Rachel Carson lived from 1907 to 1964 and was known as the woman who challenged the notion that humans could control nature by chemicals. She warned us of the dangers to all natural systems from the misuse of chemical pesticides in her book Silent Spring. Hip hip hooray for scientists! How about a toilet? Has anyone here ever used a toilet? In 1775, English inventor Alexander Cumming was granted the first patent for a flush toilet. His greatest innovation was the S-shaped pipe below the bowl that used water to create a seal preventing sewer gas from entering through the toilet. Hip hip hooray for scientists! Has anyone ever wanted to go up into space and see those majestic fireballs up close? May Carl Jemison went to Stanford University at the age of 16 and became an engineer, physician, and NASA astronaut. She became the first African-American woman to travel in space when she went into orbit aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour on September 12, 1992. Hip hip hooray for scientists! What about computers? Haven't they always been here? A gifted math magician, Ada Lovelace, is considered to have written instructions for the first computer program in 1800s and is considered the first computer program. Hip hip hooray for scientists! How long have scientists been here anyway? Hypatia was one of the last great thinkers of ancient Alexandria, Egypt in the 5th century and was one of the first women to study and teach mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. Hip hip hooray for scientists! Hip hip hooray for scientists! Hip hip hooray for scientists!
Civilization will not survive without science. Science, too, will not survive without civilization. The two evolved simultaneously, and just please think about these two statements through the course of this day and through the course of your lives. My name's Seth Moore. I'm the Director of Biology and Environment for the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa. Part of my role is to blend Ojibwa worldview and conventional Western science. Science was actually developed, the process of science was developed by indigenous peoples worldwide. It's something we don't think about nowadays. What that's called these days is tribal ecological knowledge. But the two evolved hand in hand through the process of observation, generating hypotheses, testing those hypotheses with data, coming to conclusions and synthesizing that information. And so my job working for the tribe is to do science on natural resources and the environment using the Ojibwa worldview and using conventional science practices to help to protect that environment for the tribal people, for its sustainable use, for subsistence. I manage two departments for the tribe, the Department of Biology and the Department of the Environment. Both of those two departments are funded exclusively by grant funds. There is no base funding for either of those two departments for the tribe, and the Tribal Council can't afford to fund those departments absent federal funding. Think about this. Without funding, without writing grants to conduct our science, we lose potentially 2 departments, 13 staff. So the question here today is, what can we do about this? We meaning all of us collectively. Under the current funding paradigm, our Environmental Protection Agency is slated for about 30% cuts. Our Environmental Protection Agency has the job of regulating the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. If anybody has any concern about whether or not the Environmental Protection Agency does its job or not, do a Google search for an image of Beijing, China, and a Google search, or just look up in the air and look at our air quality. Compare the two. The Environmental Protection Agency manages the Clean Air Act and regulates that, and the direct effect of that is that we are not dying of asthma at nearly the rates of people in China. We don't have other respiratory infections. We have clean water to drink. Compare our water quality here in Grand Marais through tap water or in Lake Superior with water from a third world country where there is no Environmental Protection Agency. Our Great Lakes have suffered the consequences of humanity over time. In 1969, Lake Erie caught on fire. In 1972, 3 years later, the Clean Water Act was passed. It's cleaned up to the point that it actually sustains fish. Our Great Lakes are being restored through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. All of those processes, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, are funded by the EPA, which is slated for 30% cuts in entirety to the Great Lakes Restoration Program. What can we do about this? We can do something about this, and we absolutely must do something about this and protect our water quality and our air quality. Our lives depend on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Seth. Our last speaker for the rally is going to help us sort of transition from the March to Science to action and the Earth Day beach cleanup. It's Michaela Klingeman from Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District. She's going to give us an example of local science with local benefits.
Thanks everybody for coming together for an event like this and for rallying for science and just really supporting each other in a community event. Just to give you a little bit of background information, Grand Marais and Cook County is a part of the Lake Superior North watershed. And what a watershed is it's like a drainage basin. So all of the water that drains from our lakes and our rivers and that comes from rainfall and snow melt and other precipitation will eventually drain into a common outlet. And for us, that's Lake Superior. And so all of our land activities and what we do on the land are ultimately going to impact how changes in our natural environment and then changes in land use practices are ultimately going to affect the health of Lake Superior. So water monitoring is one of the things that we can do to try and track those impacts of land use. And we water monitor Lake Superior throughout the summer. We do 5 different locations right out here, and we try and do it outside of stormwater outlets to look at how non-point source pollution might be impacting the water quality. So we go out there with meters and with water bottles and collect different data on the pH of the water, the temperature, the dissolved oxygen, and then we also send those water samples into a lab to get them tested to look at the amount of chlorophyll A that's in it. And that can tell us about the algae composition, or we can get them to be tested for the amount of phosphorus or other type of nutrients that are normally present in a lake, but sometimes when they get there in excess, they can cause harmful impacts to our water quality. So Cook County, we're really fortunate to have clean and healthy water. I think we're all really thankful for that. We can go out in a lake and enjoy it. And so it's really important that we're taking steps now to make sure that those water resources are protected in the future. And so one of the things that we can do is we can implement best management practices on our landscape. And some of those practices can include making rain gardens to capture and treat our stormwater, or having rain barrels to try and capture more of that rainfall. Or we can inspect our septic systems and make sure that they're not leaching nutrients into the groundwater. And we can also put in healthy shoreline buffers. And so that's what I wanted to touch on more today, because we have a lot of people that are here right close to the water, and we need to recognize the value that shoreline buffers play. And a buffer is just that vegetated area of land in between your lake and your land that's going to protect it from those non-point sources of pollution. And then it's also really, really helpful to have all those native plants in that buffer strip, because they have a really deep and expansive root system. And so it's going to hold and bind onto soil particles to make sure that your shoreline is protected from erosion. And so through the help of some Clean Water, Land and Legacy funds, Cook SWCD has been able to provide some assistance to landowners who want to make a difference and want to help out the land. And so we've been able to do a few shoreline projects both on inland lakes and on Lake Superior that involves some shoreline plantings. And then we also have some more to look forward to this summer with some stream bank restorations, and then also one that's going to be taking place really close to here at East Bay. They're going to change their lawn in front of their lakeshore into a native landscape. So if you want to learn more about that, and what a planting is going to look like, we're going to have Andy from Boreal Natives at East Bay at 1:30 to learn about what's going on there. So thank you guys all for listening. If you want to learn more about how you can get involved with water monitoring or the importance of shoreline buffers, or just want to talk, we have a table set up over there, and I'll be available to answer questions.
Okay, thank you for coming, for marching, and especially for caring and for staying involved. Please don't let this in today. Keep working to support science funding, participation, inclusion in science, and science-based policies. Get involved in education, advocacy, citizen science, and remember, what are you going to text? Science 94253. 94253. Marchforscience.com. Science serves. We support science. Science serves. We support science. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all. Dave Tersick here with the City of Grand Marais Parks and Rec. Adopt a Beach is now open. We do this every Earth Day, and I've never seen so many volunteers. I hope we have enough pencils and bags, and it's a scientific beach sweep. We have an inventory going for bags and cigarette butts and fabulous prizes. The most cigarette butts, the heaviest bag, and the most peculiar item will be judged at the Beach Sweep Adopt a Beach booth here on the south side. 10 to 2, well, it's already 11, I bet, so let's get things going. Voyager Brewing, big sponsorship, thank you. We have tokens. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.
Great job. Arnaldo, good morning. You can skip the sweep. I'll pick up for you.
Hi there. This is. Yes, I do. So I just need you to fill out your name. Okay. Fill out the first row. Are you trying to 12? I don't. What is that? So it's I mean, I just saw the dust and I didn't know I was there. Oh, no. It's one. So the actual, yes, if you're interested, they wanted to count. Let's see.